Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Prominent attorney Donald Watkins Sr., his son Donald Watkins Jr., both found guilty in federal court on charges of wire fraud. All counts. Now go to my iPad, Henry. This is AL.com. Donald Watkins, prominent attorney in Alabama, now living in Atlanta. Prominent family. Dad was a longtime president, Alabama State University. His brother, Dr. Levi Watkins, historic surgeon at Johns Hopkins University, and both of them in this trial took place over 3 weeks. They pretty much built athletes and others out of millions of dollars. Charles Barkley said they built him out of $6.15 million. Donald Watkins Sr. is 70. His son, Donald Watkins Jr., is 46. They both represented themselves during this trial, which included testimony from Condoleezza Rice, as well as Martin Luther King III. They were put on the stand because they had evidence, the feds did, showing that Watkins was telling people that these two were going to join his board of directors. They said, absolutely not true. There were other athletes involved in this where they took money from $1 million from several different athletes as well. And what they were basically saying is that Donald Watkins Sr. was telling people that he owned 50% of this company, Masada, when in fact, he didn't. The company, the folks still owned it. He was simply managing their portion. Feds say he used this money, several $1 million, for personal expenses such as alimony, to pay his taxes, gym workouts, billboards, things along those lines. And it's, of course, a stunning downfall for Donald Watkins Sr. because he made his bones in Alabama representing a major healthcare CEO. Folks in of course, legal circles knew very well about Donald Watkins. Folks, let me know if we have Roy Johnson from AL.com, who, of course, has been covering this as well. Again, I want to go to Fatima and Scott first. National Bar Association folks know Donald Watkins very well. To hear this prominent attorney, 70 years old, black attorney who a lot of black folks really looked up to, and of course he goes into the Alpha Hall of Shame now because he's an alpha. He's an alpha.
Oh my goodness!
But Scott, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
No, I
especially
really
with the person who took $1 million from your fraternity.
Yeah,
you want to be quiet.
Cleaning ours up.
So yeah, right.
What
So Fatima, again, black lawyers certainly to see him go down.
Yeah, no, it's a sad day to see this. It's also hard to think about the harm that was put on our community, our institutions. So you want to see some justice come from that, but it's a sad day.
Yeah, you know, just a really giant in all circles, an awesome lawyer who just happened to be African American. The reality is, though, they represented themselves, and as a former prosecutor, this is what we call an in and out case. The money going in, how's it coming out? What's your story? And by the way, how you living? What's your lifestyle and how you financing that lifestyle? It's a paper case. It can be boring to the jury, but not to the lawyers. And in the end, they put a piece of paper, those papers together to tell a story that the jury bought. All counts, by the way. I don't know what their defense was because I wasn't following it too closely.
Their defense was essentially they had the right to use funds that they raised any way they wanted to. I was following this. When you looked at the emails, when you looked at the statements, when you looked at all of those things, they had no case. I mean, they had them flat out busted. Right. Because first, they suggested that they own this 50% of this company called Masada. The owners of the company said, no, we hired him to manage our 50%, not he owned the company. They had emails literally saying where he was saying that they were investing in his company. No, that wasn't happening. I mean, it was unbelievable where they were showing, and it was documentation where his girlfriend, $600,000 went to her. They had people who were staying at her place instead of staying at hotels. I mean, it was all kind of stuff. And really, what this showed, Joseph, is that here's a guy that one time was talking about buying the St. Louis Rams, buying a Major League Baseball team, who frankly had a house of cards that just fell, who was not the rich person he set him up to be. And it showed, he even ensnared Richard Arrington, who he represented, who testified Watkins could no longer get loans from the bank that he started. Arrington got loans from the bank for him and never paid it back, and the government gave Arrington immunity. He pulled in people who trusted him. Charles Barkley said, I didn't even read the documents. He was my friend. I absolutely trusted him. $6.15 million for Charles.
It's a setback. I mean, as Fatima said, it's a setback for the community. It's a setback for the Watkins, certainly. And it's going to make people that much harder to trust a black attorney or a black sports agent. So the ripple effect is going to be significant here. But the other thing that I wanted to point out to your point, to Scott's point is, anytime, I used to cover courts, so anytime a client represents himself, the adage was they've got a fool for a client.
That's a long time
adage. And if they had them as dead to rights as Roland says they did, then certainly it probably would have been wise for them to have somebody else represent them, cop a plea, and do the best you can.
Well, that's a good segue, because now what you got to look at, Roland, is the federal sentencing guidelines.
Absolutely.
Even if it's a state case, I think it's a federal case though.
It's federal.
It's a federal case, so you got the federal sentencing guidelines, right? The direct tie into the federal sentencing guidelines is beyond acceptance of responsibility. How much did you steal, right? And the witness's victim impact statement.
Yep.
And the amount of money that they're talking about these two individuals stole, the numbers in regard to the amounts of incarceration.
Upwards of $10 million.
Right. You could get into the 10 to 20 year sentencing range without upwardly or downwardly departing. Look for the judge to do that, and look for them to really make a case for why there should be some leniency, which I don't see how you do that.
Well, the other quick thing to mention, if you're talking about sentencing guidelines, Scott, is look how this stacks up to the Manafort case. We've been talking about before. You have a black attorney, significant, stole a huge amount of money. We already have 13 counts. Is he going to bring the hammer down and sentence to 20 years? Compare and contrast to what Paul Manafort is going to be facing.
certainly will.
Fatima, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking
One second,
about,
I'm going to get to Manafort in a second.
I actually think it also connects to the conversation we just had about Jussie Smollett, right? Manafort, we're talking about a threat to our democracy. We're talking about something that.
Hold on, I'm going to get to that one in a second. Let's finish Watkins. We'll get to that in a second. Let's finish Watkins.
So for Watkins to be talking about 20 years by comparison, I mean, I think that this is why people do not have trust in the justice system altogether.
And again, first of all, the sentencing will take place July 16th in the Watkins case. And so Donald Watkins Sr. is one who is, let's just say, he is very talkative. He certainly loves media, has his own blog. So I can't wait to hear what his reaction to this guilty decision is. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, calling all HBCU alumni, students, and leaders, enter the Ford Motor Company HBCU Mobility Challenge and win $25,000 for your school. Building on their long-term support of HBCUs, Ford is looking to improve mobility in HBCU communities through innovative solutions. The winning program will receive a grant of up to $25,000 to implement the proposal. The deadline to apply is March 31st, 2019. Go to fgb.life. That's fgb.life for more info and to apply. Ford goes further in our community. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.